Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way.
Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
A Carol for Gobbolino. On Christmas Eve, the children at the farm wanted to go carol singing. They invited Gobbolino to go with them. Gobbolino was overjoyed. For long ago he had been born a witch's cat, and nobody would have dreamt of inviting him to go out with them to sing carols. But now at last he had become a proper farm cat, and he had a most beautiful singing voice. It was difficult for him not to boast about it just a little bit to the other farm cats who had not been invited. Not that he meant to make them jealous, but he did. All the farm cats jeered at him.
You go carol singing? They must be mad.
Gobbolino meant to ask the farm children if the 15 other cats might come too, but the cats got ahead of him. They charged into the farm kitchen in a furry rabble, pushing and shoving each other.
We want to go carol singing,
yowled the 15 cats.
We can sing just as well as Gobbolino.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
But some of them sang too sharp and some too flat. Some couldn't remember the words and some couldn't remember the music.
Get those cats out into the yard,
shouted the farmer's wife.
We don't want that nasty din in here. Scat!
The 15 cats fled for their lives. Gobbolino hid under a chair.
Don't worry about them,
the children told Gobbolino.
Sing with us. We'll look after you.
The children set off together, the biggest girl carrying Gobbolino under her coat so that the farm cats shouldn't see him. The 15 cats watched closely as the 5 children crossed the farmyard carrying a lantern. The girl put Gobbolino down at last, and he found himself in the depths of the forest. Before long, they came to a little cottage. The farmer's children tapped politely at the door.
Merry Christmas,
they called.
May we sing you a Christmas carol?
The man and woman who came to the door beamed kindly at the 5 children and their little black cat.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
My word, that is quite splendid, said the woman. I never heard a little cat sing so well in all my life.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
But at that moment, there came a rustling all round them in the woods, with a whispering and a hissing that grew nearer and nearer. Looking over their shoulders, the children could see green and yellow eyes gleaming in the darkness behind them. The hissing sound became worse. Then voices repeated over and over again, "Beware! Beware! Gobbolino is a witch's cat." The man of the house peered out into the darkness and saw the gleaming eyes among the trees. Instead of inviting the singers inside, he closed the door, and they heard him slowly retreating into the kitchen beyond. Disappointed, the children left the cottage. "We know it isn't true, dear Gobbolino," they said, seeing him crouching in the snow. "But you can't go back now. Those cats will get you. Come along with us. We'll carry you in turns." Gobbolino huddled inside the biggest girl's coat until they reached the next house, where he was determined not to draw any attention to himself. But when the people welcomed them and joined in their singing, he simply couldn't stop himself. He dropped on all 4 paws into the snow and lifted up his voice with the rest of them.
The first Noel, the angels did say,
"What a beautiful voice your cat has," said the people. "We never heard a cat sing like that before."
Where they lay keeping their sheep on a cold
But just then,
winter's night
a chorus of voices arose in the woods behind them, chanting louder and louder, "Gobbolino is a witch's cat! Gobbolino is a witch's cat!" At this, the people from the house just melted away. The door was closed sharply, and the farm children were left outside in the snow with Gobbolino. Presently they came to some gates, and when they went through them, they found the woods had come to an end. The cats wouldn't be able to hide here, and the farm children were determined to pelt them with snowballs if they dared to follow them into the park. Gobbolino crouched under the coat, feeling very miserable. This time he wouldn't open his mouth at all, and when at last they saw a huge dark house standing out against the white parkland, he vowed that nobody should guess he was there. The children tiptoed up the stone steps and knocked timidly on the door. Nothing happened. "They're out," said the children. "Let's sing a carol just the same."
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
They stood in a circle in the driveway in front of the great mansion and sang a carol. Gobbolino sang nothing at all. And it was just as well, because when he peeped out again from his hiding place, he saw that every window in the house had a pair of green or yellow eyes peering out of it, and the eyes were not human eyes. They could only belong to cats. "Come away quickly," Gobbolino urged the children. "The house is empty. The cats got here first. If we aren't careful, they may get us too." The carol party ran for the gates of the park, and one by one the cats came tumbling out of the house. They followed the children across the snowy fields, back into the woods, along the rides and down the paths towards the farmhouse. The children ran and ran, but before long they became exhausted, and the mewing and yowling of the cats behind them was so frightening that they didn't know which way to turn. "Put me down and let me go free," said Gobbolino. "I don't care if they catch me, but you must go safely home to your mother. Set me down and run for all you're worth." Gobbolino ran and ran. The snow was clean and bouncy, and he had no difficulty in keeping well ahead of the avenging crowd of cats. The children were safely headed for home, and that was what mattered most to him. He ran and ran, looking to right and to left for a hiding place. He was getting quite short of breath when he ran right into the center of a village, and there in front of him was a little church, all lit up for Christmas with bright candles. People were streaming into the service, and Gobbolino joined them. He felt safe at last in the atmosphere of peace and goodwill. He followed the procession up the aisle to the altar steps, where there was a nativity scene, Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus in a manger. "Let the little cat look too," said one of the shepherds, and they lifted up Gobbolino so that he could see. Suddenly, there came a hissing from the door of the church.
Gobbolino is a witch's cat. Gobbolino is a witch's cat.
But nobody paid any attention, and presently it died away. Silently, the 15 farm cats crept into the back pews, their green and yellow eyes half closed, no longer jealous and spiteful, but very watchful. The choir began to sing a carol, and without thinking, Gobbolino began to sing too. His voice rose up to the arches of the church, but nobody interrupted him. The farm cats sang as well, some sharp and some flat and some without any words or music, just singing la la la. The rest of the congregation played their part, and the church was full of music. Then the people began to leave the church. Gobbolino stayed until they were gone. He thought he might wait until the farm cats had left too, but he found them all around him in the pews, calling his name in gentle voices.
"We are sorry, Gobbolino,"
They told him.
"We didn't mean to be so unkind. Let's all go home together and look after each other in the forest."
When they reached the farmhouse, they found all the animals had poked their heads out of their stalls, while the children were running in and out of the barns. "Gobbolino! Gobbolino! Oh, he's coming at last!" The cats swept into the farmyard. One after the other bid him good night and quietly vanished. Gobbolino trotted up the steps to the kitchen door. The farmer's wife petted and praised him as the children unfolded the story of their adventures. Gobbolino had come back to the farmhouse kitchen where he belonged, to be forever after Gobbolino the kitchen cat.
Leroy learns to skate. It had been snowing all night on Magic Mountain, and the Magic Garden was covered in thick white snow. Digby, the robot gardener, was checking to see if his flowers were all right. Digby's mischievous puppy, Spot, was being naughty, doing somersaults in the flower beds. "Stop that, Spot," said Digby. "You what?" said Spot. "Here, catch this." And Spot hurled a big snowball at Digby. Digby bent down to pick up some snow and stopped to look at something. "What is it?" said Spot. "Footprints," said Digby. "They don't look like footprints to me," said Spot. Just then they saw Polly the plane high up in the sky. "Hello, dears," she called, and landed beside them with a bump, making the snow shoot everywhere. Her little friends, the tumble-downies, were piled into the plane's seats.
What are you looking at?
Cried the tumble-downies, climbing out. "Footprints," said Spot, "but we don't know who they belong to." "Oh, this sounds exciting. Let's follow them," said Polly. Soon they found themselves beside the fish pond. "Oh, look, it's Leroy the lion. Whatever is he wearing on his feet?" "Hello," said Leroy. "Do you like my new ice skates? I was getting so good at roller skating, I thought I'd try skating on ice as well." "So that's what the funny footprints are," said Spot. "Watch," said Leroy. "I'll show you how they work." He put his feet on the frozen fish pond and took one huge step. "Watch out!" called Digby, but it was too late. Leroy went skidding across the pond towards a pile of snow. Crash! "Oh, dear," said Polly. "Are you all right, Leroy?" "Yes," said Leroy, "but I'm never going to learn to ice skate. I've been trying all morning." "Why don't you pretend you're roller skating?" said Spot. "You never fall down on roller skates." "Good idea," said Leroy. He stepped out onto the ice again and started to skate just as if he was on roller skates. "Come on," said Leroy. "Try it, it's great." Spot jumped onto the ice, and so did Digby, and so did Polly and the tumble-downies. But as soon as they touched the ice, they all fell down. "Well, I'm going to start my engine," said Polly. Her propellers started to turn, but all they did was blow snow everywhere. "Help!" shouted the tumble-downies as the breeze from Polly's propellers blew them across the ice. "Help!" shouted Digby. "My motor's freezing up." "Help!" shouted Spot. "My fur's falling out!" And then they noticed a big snowman standing on the other side of the pond.
Where did he come from?
Said one of the tumble-downies. "It's me," said the snowman. "It's me, Leroy. Polly's propellers blew so much snow over me that I couldn't skate anymore." "Well, you look very nice as a snowman," said Polly. "Come on, tumble-downies." And they all joined hands and danced around Leroy the snowman.
Snow. Once upon a time, long, long ago, there lived a little girl who had never seen the snow. Her name was Lin, and she lived in China. One day, when Lin was walking in the garden with her pussycat, whose name was Cheng Pu, she felt sad.
I feel sad, Cheng Pu,
she said.
Meow,
Said Cheng Pu, as if he understood what Lin was saying.
You know, I have never seen the snow, and I would so like to. Meow,
Said Cheng Pu again. That evening, in the garden, after Lin had gone to bed and no one was near, the flowers began to talk to each other in hushed voices. "Fancy," said a tall purple hollyhock to a little blue pansy. "Lin has never seen the snow.
She is so kind and waters us every day. I wish we could help her. I know what to do, said the South Wind, who was blowing there. She blew far, far away to the north, across deserts and mountains and green valleys, until at last she came to the North Pole, where the North Wind lived. "What are you doing here?" shouted the North Wind when he saw the South Wind. "Go away, or I'll chase you!" laughed the South Wind. "You can't catch me!" "Oh, can't I?" roared the North Wind. "We'll soon see about that!" And he chased after the South Wind. But the South Wind turned round and blew all the way back to China, and the North Wind followed as fast as he could. But he couldn't catch the South Wind. It was cold, though, and the clouds all shivered when the North Wind came by, and they stopped raining and began to snow. They snowed and snowed. When the North Wind found he couldn't catch the South Wind, he went back to the North Pole in a horrid temper, and blew so hard that even the polar bears shivered. Next morning, when Lynn came into the garden, she saw it was covered with snow. "How softly white and beautiful everything is," she said. "Come and look, Chang-Poo. It must be snow." said Chang-Poo. Soon the South Wind blew and melted all the snow, and the sun came out and warmed the flowers. Lynn was very happy.
Flowers sitting in the sun, watching the winds as they chase and run. Listen to the south wind softly blow, waiting for the north wind and snow, snow, snow.
Look at all the clouds shivering in the sky, watching the winds come whistling by. Listen to the north wind loudly blow. What is he bringing? Snow, snow, snow. Look at all the flowers sitting in the sun, watching the winds as they chase and run. Listen to the south wind softly blow, waiting for the north wind and snow, snow, snow. Look at all the clouds shivering in the sky, watching the winds come whistling by. Listen to the north wind loudly blow. What is he bringing? Snow, snow, snow.
Mother Goose. Once, not very long ago, there lived a little old lady and her son, Colin. They lived in a house in the forest, and they were very, very poor. The old lady kept 3 geese in the backyard of their house, Harold, Henry, and Priscilla. The old lady loved the geese so much that everyone for miles around called her Mother Goose. One morning, Baron Hardup, who lived in the big house at the top of the hill, came to call. "Mother Goose!" he cried as he rapped at the door. "Mother Goose! You haven't paid your rent these past 2 months. Where's my money?" "We have no money to give you, sir," said Mother Goose. "All we have to live on are the fruit and berries we find in the forest and the eggs our geese lay. Our last gold sovereign was spent 2 months ago." "Ah-ha-ha!" said the Baron. "So you eat the fruit in my forest and then tell me you cannot pay the rent, eh?" "We could give you goose eggs, sir," said Colin. "Priscilla's eggs are especially large and delicious to eat." "Goose eggs? Ha!" replied Baron Hardup. "Goose eggs are worth nothing to me. I want my rent. 5 gold sovereigns by the end of the week, or I'll throw you out of your house." And he walked off into the forest in a very bad temper. "Oh, Colin," cried Mother Goose, "what are we to do? We have no money to pay the Baron, and soon we won't have a roof over our heads either." And she burst into tears. "Don't cry, Mother," said Colin. "Something will turn up, and besides, I have some wonderful news for you. I am to be married to my sweetheart, Nell." "Married?" said Mother Goose. And what will you live on? I suppose you will go away and leave me on my own, and things will be worse than ever." And she cried even more loudly than before. "There's only one thing for it," said Colin. "I will have to take our geese Harold and Henry and Priscilla to market and sell them. At least we'll be able to pay the Baron his rent." Mother Goose could not bear to be parted from her geese, but at last she agreed to sell them, and Colin set off for market. On the way, he met his sweetheart Nell and told her about his mother and the Baron and the geese. "Oh, let me come with you, Colin," said Nell. "If we can raise 5 gold sovereigns, your mother won't have to leave the house, and we can be married." In the marketplace, there was a crowd of people bustling, jostling, pushing and shoving. "Roll up!" cried Colin. "Who will buy these fine geese?" The 3 geese were well fed and plump, and their feathers were snowy white. Soon, Colin had sold Harold and Henry to a farmer for 2 sovereigns each. As the farmer prepared to lead them away, Nell bent down and kissed them. "Goodbye, Harold. Goodbye, Henry," she whispered. Now, only Priscilla was left. "Roll up!" cried Colin. "Who will buy this fine goose?" Just as he spoke, a very strange thing happened. Priscilla laid an egg. But it wasn't any ordinary egg. It was an egg of pure gold. "Look, Colin," said Nell. "Priscilla has laid a golden egg. Oh, you clever goose. Quickly, Colin, let's go and show Mother." As they were about to leave the marketplace, two men came up to Colin and Nell.
"That's a fine goose you have there,"
said one of them, and he stroked Priscilla's feathers as she sat in Nell's arms.
"How much do you want for her?"
said the second man. "I'm sorry, she's not for sale," said Nell. "You see, she lays golden eggs, and we need the money to pay Baron Hardup's rent." And Nell and Colin ran away home, carrying Priscilla and the golden egg very carefully.
"Golden eggs, eh?"
said the first man.
"I think Baron Hardup would like to hear about this."
And the two men left the marketplace and went to tell the Baron. When Colin and Nell told Mother Goose what had happened, she was overjoyed. "Oh, Priscilla, you have saved us," she cried. "Colin, put Priscilla to bed in our best sheets and hide the golden egg behind the stove. Tomorrow we can pay the Baron his money, and good, kind, clever Priscilla will lay us lots and lots of golden eggs, and we shall be rich." But Colin put the golden egg too close to the stove, and in the night it melted away. Only tiny pieces of molten gold remained. Meanwhile, the Baron had heard about the goose who laid golden eggs.
"I must have that goose,"
he cried. And in the night, he crept through the forest to Mother Goose's house. He climbed through the window into Colin's bedroom, put one hand on Priscilla's beak so that she couldn't squawk, and carried her off into the night. When morning came, there was no sign of Priscilla, and there was no sign of the golden egg. "How will we find the money to pay the Baron now?" wailed Mother Goose. "We have lost Priscilla and the golden egg." In his castle, Baron Hardup was talking to Priscilla.
"Now, my beauty," he said, "you will lay me one golden egg after another, won't you?" "Aha! A talking goose, eh?" said the Baron. "Then perhaps you will tell me why you won't lay me golden eggs."
"You have a heart of stone," said Priscilla. "For you, I can lay only stone eggs. Mother Goose and her family have hearts of gold, so for them, I can lay golden eggs."
"We'll soon see about that," said the Baron,
and he reached out his arms to grab Priscilla round the neck.
"I'll shake a golden egg out of you."
But Priscilla was too quick for him. She rushed out of the castle and down the path that led to the forest. Baron Hardup chased after her as fast as his legs would carry him. Into the forest they ran, Priscilla always keeping just a few yards ahead of the Baron. At last, she reached Mother Goose's house. "No! Mother!" cried Colin when he saw Priscilla. "Look who's here!" Priscilla jumped into his arms, safe at last. The Baron arrived, panting and muttering.
"All right, Mother Goose," he snarled. "You may have the goose that lays golden eggs, but you still haven't paid me my rent. If you don't pay it this very instant, I'll have you thrown out of the house."
"Look behind the stove," said Mother Goose. "There you will find all the gold you'll ever get from me." Baron Hardup scrabbled around the floor on his hands and knees, trying to pick up the tiny pieces of molten gold. Mother Goose and Colin and Nell and Priscilla went far away from Baron Hardup's forest to a place where the sun always shone. Colin and Nell were married and lived happily ever after. And if ever Mother Goose or any of her family ever wanted for anything, Priscilla was always happy to lay another golden egg.
Christmas fun.
Christmas comes but once a year, or so the saying goes. But many are the things to do in the season of the snows.
Take a tray and find a slope that's covered in thick snow. Jump on your tray and all the day tobogganing you can go.
Pile the snow in great big lumps by hand or trowel or spade. With stones or coal for eyes and mouth, a snowman you have made.
With your very warmest gloves, pick up some fresh clean snow and press it tight between your hands, then snowballs you can throw.
Being indoors on Christmas Eve is snug and warm and pleasant. Hang up your longest, widest sock for Santa's Christmas present.
With coal or logs upon the fire, you need a fork for toasting. Try crumpets, muffins, buns and bread, and chestnuts slowly roasting.
When you've got your Christmas tree from garden, field or shop, put baubles, lights and tinsel on, and a fairy on the top.
Rudolph to the rescue. Far away on the planet Gifto, Santa was having problems. There were many other planets to visit on his way to Earth, but Rudolph, his chief reindeer, was in bed with terrible toothache. And only Rudolph knew the way to Earth. "We'll just have to rely on our computer," grumbled Santa, as he checked the instruments on his sleigh. "Let's hope it works properly," muttered the other reindeer. "Don't worry, Rudolph, we'll soon be back," cried Santa. And he set off into space with all the reindeer except Rudolph. Poor Rudolph was near to tears. Santa's first stop was Three Moon Planet. He found it easily because there were signposts everywhere and not much traffic about. He made his delivery on time, and after a short stop for tea and sandwiches, he was soon on his way again. "Next stop, Galacto!" he cried. As the Milky Way flew by, Santa studied the computer. "Oh, that's funny," he muttered. "Galacto is supposed to be here, but there's nothing in sight." The sleigh flew round and round for hours. At last, Santa and the reindeer bumped into a space police patrol, who kindly offered to escort them to Galacto. "No wonder we couldn't find it," laughed Santa. "It's hidden behind this black hole." After delivering his presents to the children on Galacto, Santa was feeling quite pleased with himself. He was making good time and would soon be on his way to Earth. Then, suddenly, a meteor shower fell out of the sky and knocked the sleigh right off course. "Oh, no," moaned Santa, as the sleigh and the reindeer hurtled through space. "The computer's been smashed to bits. Now we're well and truly lost. I'd better call up Rudolph on my bleeper." Rudolph was trying to get to sleep when the crackling message woke him with a start. "Santa needs my help. Oh, if only I didn't have this awful toothache." Then Rudolph had an idea. He got some string and tied one end to his tooth and the other to a shooting star, which happened to be passing. Twang! The tooth flew off into space. "Ooh, that's better," said Rudolph. And in next to no time, he was speeding to the rescue. last, he spotted his friends floating about among the stars.
Oh, Rudolph, I'm so glad to see you,
cried Santa, and a great cheer went up from the other reindeer. Come on, shouted Rudolph. Oh, we better not be late for Earth. And sure enough, as night fell over Earth, little children everywhere peeped up into the sky and saw just what they wanted to see. Santa and his reindeer, racing over the chimney tops with a sleigh full of presents to deliver.
Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the bright sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep in the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my side until morning is nigh. Be near me, Lord Jesus, I ask thee to stay close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in thy tender care, and fit us for heaven to live with thee there. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the bright sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep in the hay. I saw three ships come sailing by, sailing by, sailing by. I saw three ships come sailing by on Christmas Day in the morning. Three pretty girls one could play on the violin. Such joy there was at my wedding on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw 3 ships come sailing by, sailing by, sailing by. I saw 3 ships come sailing by on Christmas Day in the morning.
Dotty and the Teddy Bears. Dotty the Magic Dragon was feeling very excited because her 3 little nephews were coming to stay for Christmas. She had been busy in the kitchen all day, making lots of delicious food and messy pots and pans. When Dotty had finished the washing up, the water in the sink would not run away down the plug hole.
Oh, no,
cried Dotty.
the sink's blocked.
Then she had an idea. She opened her mouth and blew one of her special flames down the plug hole. It went through the waste pipe, made a huge hole in the kitchen floor, and shot right down to a cave deep in Magic Mountain. Dotty peered down the hole into the cave. All she could see was a huge pile of teddy bears.
Hello,
called Dotty.
What do you think you're doing?
An angry voice yelled back. It was an elf, covered in dust.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
Dotty began. But then she saw another elf.
Who are you?
He asked.
Why, Dotty the Dragon, of course,
she cried.
Hold on, I'm coming down.
Dotty climbed down to the cave and looked around. There were piles of teddy bears everywhere, and a row of elves were busy making more.
What is this place?
Dotty asked the elf who had been so cross.
It's the teddy bear division of Santa's toy workshops, he said. We make all the teddy bears that Santa gives children at Christmas. But we still have hundreds to make before Santa comes to collect them. And we don't have enough pairs of hands.
Said Dotty.
I think I can help you. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Dotty whizzed up to her kitchen, got her magic dish mop, and whizzed back down to the cave. She waved her dish mop at a pile of teddies. At once, they jumped up and began making more and more teddies, just like themselves. The elves were amazed.
Now, elves,
said Dotty,
while the teddies are nice and busy down here, you must come to my house and have a rest.
Oh, thanks, Dotty,
said the cross elf, who'd stopped looking cross. The elves went up to Dotty's kitchen, ate some mince pies, and put their feet up. But as they were dozing in front of the television, they heard bangs and crashes from the cave below. They rushed down to the cave to see what was happening. There were teddies swinging from the lights, and teddies jumping off shelves, teddies chasing each other, and teddies knocking each other about.
You naughty teddies! Oh, just look at the state you're in!
Shrieked Dotty. At once they all stopped what they were doing and looked down at themselves. They were dusty, and their bows were coming undone.
Santa won't give you to any nice children looking like that,
said Dotty.
Quick, clean yourselves up before he gets here.
The teddies helped make each other neat and tidy again, while the elves counted them.
Goody!
They said.
We've got enough teddies for Santa now.
Well, I'll leave you all to it, said Dotty. And as she left, she could see the elves winking at each other. She couldn't understand why. But when her 3 nephews looked in their stockings on Christmas morning, what do you think they found? Peeping out of the top of each one was a very cheeky-looking teddy bear with its bow very neatly tied.
Clara and the Nutcracker Doll. It was Christmas Eve, and Clara and Franz were waiting for their godfather, Uncle Johann, to arrive. He came to visit them every year to give them their Christmas presents himself. They were very special presents because Uncle Johann was a toy maker.
Perhaps he'll come if we shut our eyes and think about him very hard, said Clara.
Don't be silly, said Franz.
Oh, let's just try,
said Clara. So they both shut their eyes tight and thought very hard. Just then, the doorbell rang.
It worked,
cried Clara. And in came Uncle Johann, laughing and shaking the snow off his coat. Well, 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 he cried, hugging them both. Here you are, then. What do you think of these, my little friends? He gave Franz and Clara a parcel each. Inside Franz's was a beautiful wooden boat with a bright red sail. And inside Clara's was a doll with very long legs, painted to look like a soldier. Who is he? asked Clara. He's a Nutcracker doll, said Uncle Johann. Look. He picked up a nut from a dish on the table, placed it in the doll's mouth, pulled the legs close together, and hey presto, the nut's shell cracked open in 2 neat halves. Uncle Johann popped the nut into Clara's mouth. Clara was thrilled. Oh, he's lovely, Uncle Johann. I've never had a Nutcracker doll before. And she danced round the room, holding her new doll above her head. Her brother Franz had been watching her all this time, not saying a word. Suddenly, he dashed across the room, snatched the doll, threw it onto the floor, and jumped on it. Clara burst into tears. Oh, no! My poor doll! Uncle Johann strode across the room, picked up Franz, and bundled him out of the door. Clara could hear him speaking very angrily to Franz as she picked up the Nutcracker doll and looked closely at it. She began to smile through her tears. So, you're not broken after all, she whispered. She curled up on the sofa with the doll in her arms and went to sleep. Later that night, Clara woke to find herself tucked up in her own bed. They must have brought me upstairs when I was asleep, she thought. But where's my Nutcracker doll? He must have fallen on the floor again, poor thing. Quiet as a mouse, Clara put on her slippers and crept downstairs. The clock struck midnight as she opened the door to the drawing room. Startled, she darted across the floor, leapt onto the sofa, and tucked her feet inside her nightdress. She looked all around her. The fire flared in the grate and lit up the room. Just then, there was the sound of stamping feet, and rows of mice came marching by, led by a mouse king with fierce, bright eyes. Clara's own eyes grew wider and wider. as columns of soldiers marched in from the other end of the room. They were Franz's toy soldiers, and leading them was her Nutcracker doll. The mice and the toy soldiers started to fight. In minutes, the Mouse King had driven the Nutcracker doll right up against the sofa where Clara was sitting. "Oh, no, you don't," she thought. In a flash, she had taken off a slipper and thrown it at the Mouse King. Stunned, he fell to the floor. The Nutcracker doll toppled over too and hit his head. The mice rushed forward and carried their king away to safety. Clara started to pick up the Nutcracker doll, but as she did so, quick as a flash, he grew and grew before her very eyes. He was no longer a doll, but a handsome young man. He picked up Clara's slipper, kissed it, and gave it back to her. "You saved my life. I shall not forget it," he said, smiling at her. Who are you?" stammered Clara. "I am the Nutcracker Prince. Will you come with me to my kingdom? It is the kingdom of sweets, and no human being has ever visited it before." "Oh, yes, please. How do we get there?" Scarcely had she spoken when a boat appeared. Clara and the prince stepped into it and skimmed off through the wintry night. Snowflakes whirled and danced around them, but Clara felt as warm as if she were wrapped in eiderdown. At last, they arrived at the Nutcracker Prince's palace. Clara gazed at it entranced. It was made from white icing, with towers of pink icing, columns of barley sugar, and chandeliers of glistening pear drops. A beautiful, dainty lady welcomed Clara as though she were a princess. "I am the Sugar Plum Fairy," she said, "and I have all kinds of treats to show you." "Come with me," said the prince, and he led Clara into the ballroom to a peppermint throne studded with silver balls. "Sit here," he said kindly. "But what is going to happen?" "All your favorite sweets will dance for you," said the prince. He smiled and put his finger to his lips as music filled the ballroom. Clara's heart beat with excitement as two dancers leapt into the middle of the ballroom. They were dressed in rich brown velvet, and Clara watched enthralled as they weaved and stamped to and fro. "They must be chocolates, my favorite," she whispered to the prince. And as if by magic, the dancers became chocolates. Next came a dozen children, skipping and tripping in candy-colored dresses. "Fruit drops," said Clara, clapping and laughing. "How I love them!" Then two very tall, thin men, dressed in black from head to foot, wobbled to and fro in front of her in a most comical way. "Oh, there's no mistaking them. They're Franz's favorite, licorice." In another minute, the prince had taken Clara's hand and led her onto the dance floor. They whirled around together so fast that the pear-drop chandeliers, the peppermint throne, and the walls of white icing all mixed into one bright blur of light. Now, for the loveliest surprise of all," said the prince, as he led Clara back to the peppermint throne. There was a dainty tinkling of music as the sugar plum fairy stepped into the center of the ballroom. She danced tirelessly, like a snow crystal floating on the wind, and Clara could not take her eyes off her for a second. Can she be real? She wondered. And as she did so, she looked down and saw that she was holding her Nutcracker doll in her arms. She blinked, sat up, and looked around. She was once more in her own bed, and the prince, the ballroom, and the sugar plum fairy had all melted away. How very strange, thought Clara, and she snuggled down under the covers again, the Nutcracker doll under her arm. I wonder if I will ever see the kingdom of sweets again. And she fell fast asleep.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. Oh, morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. For Christ is born of Mary, and gathered all above. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. Oh, morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. For Christ is born of Mary, and gathered all above. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love.
The Surprise Christmas Tree. There was once a little old man who lived in a cottage at the edge of a wood. He was rather a lonely old man, but he had lots of friends among the birds of the wood and the hedgerow. They all loved the little old man because he was always kind to them. One day, just before Christmas, the little old man was feeling rather sad. "I should so like to have a Christmas tree," he said. "But that would be silly for an old man like me, living all alone." Suddenly, the little old man had an idea. He got up from his armchair, put on his Wellington boots and his red muffler, fetched a spade from his kitchen, and set off for the woods. When the little old man came home again, he was carrying a lovely little fir tree over his shoulder. He planted the little fir tree in a big red flower pot and put it in his front room. Then he drew the curtains tight across the window so that no one could see in. Presently, Robin Redbreast came along. He looked at the window and saw the curtains drawn tightly across.
"Cheep, cheep," said Robin Redbreast. "What's in there? Why has the little old man drawn his curtains so early?"
Tommy Thrush went flying by.
"Cheep, cheep," said Tommy Thrush. "What's in there? Why has the little old man drawn his curtains so early?"
Billy Bluetit fluttered down. He pecked at the window.
"Tap, tap, tap." "Cheep, cheep,"
said Billy Bluetit.
"What's in there? Why has the little old man drawn his curtains so early?"
Sammy Starling fluttered to the windowsill.
"Cheep, cheep,"
he squawked.
"What's in there? Why has the little old man drawn his curtains so early?"
All the birds were very puzzled, but the little old man wouldn't draw his curtains back. At last, it was Christmas Day. The little old man hurried downstairs and opened his front door. The soft white snow was sparkling in the sunshine, and the sky was clear and blue. "Happy Christmas!" the little old man called to all his bird friends.
"Happy Christmas!"
they all sang back to him. Then the little old man went back into his cottage again.
"He's gone to find some crumbs for our breakfast," said the birds. "How kind he is."
But the little old man didn't come back with any crumbs for the birds' breakfast. He went and picked up the little fir tree and carried it out into the snowy garden. "There," he said. "There's a Christmas tree for all of you, my little bird friends." And what a lovely Christmas tree he had made. There was a big scarlet paper bow at the top to make it look gay. And from every branch and twig hung all sorts of good things that little birds like to eat. Peanuts, rose hips and haw-berries, a bone covered with fat, some delicious bacon rinds, and thistledown heads. Oh, the birds were so pleased. They flew down from every corner of the garden until the Christmas tree could hardly hold them all.
"Cheep, cheep, cheep, cheep,"
they sang in chorus, and the little old man knew that they meant, "Thank you very much, and a happy Christmas to you."
The Forgotten Toys. Coo, the toy kangaroo, sat on the pavement beside the big grey dustbin. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo! He sobbed into his glossy brown fur. "Hello, why are you crying?" said a friendly voice. Coo looked up and saw a pretty rag doll peering at him through a mop of curly brown hair. "Oh!" he sniffed. "I was a little boy's best Christmas present, but he didn't like me. So I've been left out for the dustman to take away. I wish I had a home." "Don't worry," said the rag doll. "I was a little girl's best Christmas present, but she didn't like me when she found I didn't wet my nappy or say mama. Now I haven't got a home either." "Well, what's your name?" said Coo. "Rara," said the rag doll. "Shall we run away?" "Yes, let's," said Coo. "We could travel a long way together and have great adventures. Kangaroos are great hoppers, you know." Rara jumped onto Coo's back, and together they hopped off down the road. It was late. Houses were locked up for the night, and children were fast asleep in their beds. "Isn't it cold?" said Coo. "And quiet," said Rara. They both began to wish they were tucked up in bed like the children. "Let's find somewhere to sleep," said Rara. "Okay," said Coo, and he turned down a narrow alleyway. Hop, hop, hop. Suddenly, a big black shape landed plop just in front of them. It was a cat. "Hello," said the cat. "I don't often see people like you down my alley. I'm Sid. Who are you?" "I'm Rara, the rag doll, and this is my friend Coo, the kangaroo. We're Christmas presents nobody wanted." "Yes," said Coo, looking sad. "We thought we'd go on an adventure, but really, I would rather be a Christmas present that somebody does want." "Can we stay here for the night, please?" said Rara. "Sure," said Sid. "I'll be out all night, but I'll see you in the morning. Sleep tight." And he winked and ran off. Coo and Rara snuggled up and went to sleep. Early next morning, Sid woke them up. He was looking very pleased with himself. "Follow me," he said. "I've found just the place for you two." Rara climbed onto Coo's back, and they followed Sid along back streets and main streets until they came to a large building in a square. "What a huge house," said Coo. "It's not a house, it's a hospital," said Sid. "Wait here a minute." He winked and disappeared. Soon the two toys heard footsteps. They looked up and saw a woman in a blue dress and a white pinafore. "Why," she said, "somebody has left us two lovely toys. How kind! The children will love them." She bent down and picked up Coo and Rara and carried them into the hospital, looking very pleased.
Oh, look!
Cried the children.
A toy kangaroo and a rag doll. Aren't they lovely?
Coo and Rara looked at each other happily. "Home at last," said Coo.
Minnie's dinner spell. Minnie the witch hummed as she flicked through her spell book.
Christmas is coming. I've got a good idea. I'm going to make my dinner by magic appear.
Then she stopped at page 394.
Ah, this is what I want,
She said,
a spell to make a turkey.
She read the spell carefully.
Hens cluck and ducks quack, but Christmas turkeys gobble, and that is what I want to have, with a hubble, bubble, bubble.
There was a bang and a flash and a loud gobble gobble. A huge turkey stood in front of her, a rather angry-looking turkey.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
It squawked and lowered its beak threateningly at Minnie.
Oh, go away,
She shrieked.
go away. You're not what I wanted at all.
The turkey turned on its heel and waddled away, gobbling angrily.
I meant it to be a cooked turkey,
Muttered Minnie, leafing through her spellbook.
I'll try this spell. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4. I want my Christmas dinner to come flying through the door.
It certainly did. A large saucepan landed at Minnie's feet, missing her by inches. She jumped back in surprise.
Oh, goodness,
She said.
that spell worked.
But when she opened the lid, she was disappointed.
Mashed potatoes,
She cried.
That's not a Christmas dinner. Pah!
She slammed down the lid and picked up her spell book again.
There must be a spell for Christmas dinner somewhere in here,
She mumbled.
Here's one that will do.
She cleared her throat and read,
Rice pudding, custard, treacle and rum. I'd like a pudding made out of plum. Alka-Foo-Salam!
Stars sparked and fireworks flared, and a round plum pudding with holly on the top appeared. There were even flames all around it.
Hurray!
Shouted Minnie.
I've done it! I've made my Christmas dinner!
And she danced a little jig. But when she looked at the pudding again, the flames had grown higher, and there was a strong smell of burning. Soon, all that was left of the pudding were a few black cinders.
Oh, dear.
Moaned Minnie.
Something went wrong there. I'll just have to try a potato spell again. Maybe if I make it really strong, it'll work. 10 potatoes doubled up, that's 10 and 10, makes 20. I want my Christmas dinner, and I want it to be plenty!
This time, saucepans of mashed potato rained down on her. Big saucepans, little saucepans, saucepans with one handle, saucepans with two, black ones, green ones, even a gold one. And every one had mashed potato in it. Sadly, Minnie sat down.
I'll just have to eat mashed potato for my Christmas dinner,
she sighed. But then she had a surprise. The first saucepan of mashed potato tasted of roast turkey, the second of peas, the third of plum pudding, and another of chocolate. Every saucepan of mashed potato tasted of something different. Said Minnie with her mouth full.
I don't know how I did it, but I got my Christmas dinner after all. Now, what does this potato taste of? Mince pies, delicious!
Morris's Christmas Stocking. It was Christmas Eve, and Jane and the magic hamsters were very busy. Jane was making some of her delicious mince pies, Morris was decorating the Christmas tree, and Doris was hanging up everyone's Christmas stockings by the fireplace. "I wonder what Father Christmas will bring us," she said. "Father Christmas?" said Morris, as he tied the fairy to the top of the tree. "Surely you don't believe in him?" "Of course we do," cried Doris. "Everyone knows it's Father Christmas who puts presents in our stockings." On Christmas morning, Morris and Doris and Jane rushed downstairs. All the stockings were bulging with presents, even Morris's. "See," cried Doris, "Father Christmas has visited us." She opened her stocking and found some nuts, an orange, a woolly hat, and a new tin of magic moonbeams for making hamster spells.
"Hooray!" said Jane. "I've got some jelly babies, an apple, some paints, and a pair of stripy socks. Aren't they lovely? What have you got, Morris?"
Morris opened his stocking. But all he found inside were some old pieces of newspaper and a note. It said, "If you think I don't exist, I'll cross you off my Christmas list. Signed, Father Christmas." "I think it's just Grandpa Wizard playing a trick on me," said Morris. "I think he filled your Christmas stockings. I still don't believe in Father Christmas, and I never will." Just then, there was a terrific puff of smoke, and stars flew all over the sitting room. It was Grandpa Wizard. Instead of the purple robe he usually wears, he was wearing a red robe with white fur round the edges. He looked just like Father Christmas.
"Ha ha! I knew I was right!" cried Morris. "It's just Grandpa pretending to be Father Christmas. Come on, Grandpa, where's my stocking?" "I don't know," said Grandpa, "but I've brought a visitor with me. Why don't you ask him?"
Merry Christmas,
said a deep voice from the fireplace.
"Look, it really is Father Christmas," cried Morris.
but you don't believe in me,
said Father Christmas.
"Oh, I do now,"
said Morris.
Are you sure?
"Oh, yes,"
said Morris.
"I promise."
Here's your stocking then,
said Father Christmas. Morris looked inside and found a banana, a whistle, a new magic hat, and a book of songs.
"Thank you very much, Father Christmas,"
he whispered.
You're very welcome,
said Father Christmas.
Now, how about one of the songs from your songbook?
"Oh, yes,"
said Morris. And he and Doris and Jane and Grandpa all stood round the Christmas tree with Father Christmas, and they sang and sang until it was time for bed.
It's Christmas Day. Time for happiness, time for friends. We hope that Christmas never ends. Hamsters, dogs and dragons, robots, lions and kids should all join in, 'cause it's time to sing a merry, merry Christmas song. Hooray, hooray, hooray for Christmas Day. That's what the Magic Mountain people always say. Hooray for Christmas pudding, hooray for Santa Claus too. A merry, merry Christmas from all of us to all of you. Hooray, 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 hooray. Hooray, 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 it's Christmas Day. Time for happiness, time for friends. We hope that Christmas never ends. Hamsters, dogs and dragons, robots, lions and kids should all join in, 'cause it's time to sing our merry, merry Christmas song. Hooray, 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 hooray for Christmas Day. That's what the Magic Mountain people always say. Hooray for Christmas pudding, hooray for Santa Claus too. A merry, merry Christmas from all of us to all of you. And you, and you, and you, and you. Bye, everybody. Wonderful Christmas!
Happy Christmas!